Children, we will revise the poem, A Photograph. We will go through the summary. Photograph written by Shirley Tolson. The poet views the photograph taken before she was born of her mother and her two cousins. It was of the three girls when they went to the beach. Now the poet, she is looking at a photograph of her mother and her mother's cousins taken when she was not born only. That is, her mother was too young at that time. The two cousins were younger than the narrator's mother, who was about 12 years old then. So the narrator's mother was only 12 years old when this photograph was taken, and her two cousins standing with her were younger than her. Both the cousins were on either side of the mother, holding her hands. Now, because the narrator's mother was older among the three, so the two other cousins were holding her hands, one on each side. The three of them smiled at the camera as the uncle clicked the photograph. The uncle with whom these three girls had gone to the beach, they smiled at him as he was taking a photograph. So in this photograph, all three of them were smiling, looking at the camera and smiling. The camera had caught them smiling as the breeze ruffled their hair. Now, because on the seashore there is lot of breeze, their hair were coming over their face and they were smiling through those ruffled hair. The poet notices her mother's sweet face of a time before she was born. Sweet face when her mother was only 12 years old. The author observes that her mother was quite pretty, quite sweet when she was 12 years old. Her face had changed much. Later on, when she grew, obviously everybody's face changes with age. Her face also, the mother's face also had changed. So, every mortal has change. Every mortal changes with time. Unlike the sea which had remained unchanged. Now the poet is comparing her mother to the sea. The mother's face had changed as she grew older, whereas the sea, which could be seen even in the picture, remained almost the same. Nature does not change as a human being, a mortal, changes. The sea washed their unbearably short-lived feet. Now the mother was dead, the mother was no more alive. So that is why she says she sees the picture of a mother standing in the water of the sea, washing their feet, which now were not alive, unbearably short-lived. That is, human life is short-lived. Human being is a mortal. He takes birth and perishes. The mother is now dead. The poet recalls how 20 to 30 years later, her mother would look at the photograph and recall with amusement how, as young girls, they had been dressed for the beach. Now, after 20 or 30 years, that is when the poet's mother was in her 40s, she would look at the picture and think back of her childhood time and laugh at the way they were dressed to go to the beach. She had been out for a holiday to the beach years back and felt nostalgic about it. Now, when the author's mother was only 12 years old, she had gone for this holiday to the beach, and she remembered those happy times. Nostalgic is which makes a person sad, because the time cannot be repeated. That happy time she spent at the beach could not come back. She could not enjoy the same again. So she remembers the happy time, but with sadness, because she cannot enjoy the same happiness now. Just as the poet felt when she relived the memories of her mother. The poet also felt nostalgic when she thought about her mother, when she thought about the laughter of her mother. Her mother, when she used to look at this picture, this photograph, and think about her past, her childhood time, and laugh. Now, because the mother was also not there, she was dead, the poet remembers her mother's laughter and feels nostalgic. She also feels sad because she could not bring back her mother and her mother's laughter also. She recalled with pain the memories of her mother's laughter. She found it difficult to come to terms. She could not get over the death of her mother. Though her mother was dead for couple of years, but still she was not able to come to terms. She missed her mother too much. She could not move on with her mother's death. She could not come to terms with her mother's death. She remembers her mother who died a long time ago. Many years had passed. She has now lived without her for almost half of her life. And this fact overwhelms her into silence. She has lived nearly almost half of her life. That means the mother has died quite long back. But still, even after so much time, the poet is not able to come to terms or overcome the death of her mother. And this overwhelms her into silence. This makes her silent.